Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you can hear me. My voice is clear. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Ankush Todi. I'm the founder of Learnomate Technologies. I do have 10 plus years of experience with the IT company. I already work with the companies like Cognizant, Infosys, LTI, Wipro, and some small based company, middle scale company. So So while working with these companies and working with the multiple projects, I personally got the exposure with the multiple technologies, and we are going to discuss about the Hadoop Spark technologies in the today's lecture. So Learnomate technologies. Before we go to the technical part, let me just give some introduction part about this platform called Learnomate technologies. So we have office available in the Pune location. So we do provide the training on Oracle DB, RAC DB, Golden Gate, AWS, and multiple other technologies, SQL, Linux, and everything. So we do provide the training offline also in Pune location, and online anyone can join from any location. So today we have connected here to understand about the technology called Hadoop and Spark. Okay. So let me share my screen. Before I go ahead, just wanted to clarify one thing. My voice is clear, right?
Yes, Pankaj.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So now let's try to understand about what is big data. Okay. Before we go to the terminology Hadoop and Spark, first of all, we'll try to understand about the terminology called big data. So I'll tell you very layman example. You take an example that I have a laptop is there, okay, and this laptop is having a configuration like 4 GB of RAM, 100 GB of storage, and let's say it is a i3 processor. Now, when I aware with the situation that I have a 4 GB of RAM is there, it means I can only process some sort of amount of data which can be only processed by the 4 GB only. So when I have a data around, let's say 200 GB to 300 GB, that data I can process with the help of 4 GB of RAM, and that data can be fit into the 100 GB of storage also. If I store only 100 GB of data, I can store it here. So when I have a data now, initially when I started the company was very small, so small amount of data was there, and that data was processed by the system. This laptop was processing that data, but gradually when my business is keep on increasing, the amount of data is keep on increasing, right? So earlier it was, let's consider 100 GB, now it is 10 terabyte. Now do you think that this laptop which is having a 4 GB of RAM can be processed this 10 terabyte of data? No. So any data which cannot be processed by this system, we call it as a big data. So for this 4 GB of RAM, I can consider that it can hardly process some 100 GB to 200 GB. More than that, it cannot process. So it is a big data for this particular system because it cannot process it. Now, when my business is growing and I am coming with the huge amount of data, I should have a big system, right? Definitely, I need a big system which will process the huge amount of data. So what we will do initially, let's say I have initially one 4 GB of RAM is there, I will extend it to the 20 GB, then I will extend it to the 32 GB. So after 32 GB of RAM, I got to know that more than 32 GB my laptop itself is not supporting. My laptop itself is not supporting. The current laptop which I'm using right now, it has a maximum amount of memory is 32 GB RAM only. More than that, it is not supporting. So basically, even though you are increasing the resources on one laptop or one system or one server, it can hardly process 32 GB of RAM, and after that it will stop. But I got the situation that, boss, I have huge amount of data. Now data is in terabyte. 32 GB of RAM is not useful for me. So what I will do, I will add one more system. What I will do, I will add one more system, then I will add one more system, likewise. And this system will be connected to each other through the network. Through the network, they are getting connected. This is called horizontal scaling. So what I'm doing horizontally means multiple servers I'm adding it, but even though they are a multiple server, they are behave like a single machine, and that is called cluster. What is this cluster? Now this can be your Hadoop cluster, this can be your any cloud cluster also. So cluster is basically when you have a multiple machines are there, but at the end all are doing the same work. We called it as a cluster. That terminology is same irrespective of any technology. So we have Hadoop cluster, we have Oracle cluster, we have any other cluster, you take the example, but cluster terminology is same. So basically the problem was big data. Big data means we have a data which cannot be processed by the single system, and this problem has been resolved by the technology called Hadoop. So Hadoop is a technology which has fixed this problem by creating a multiple machines. By creating a multiple machines, they have fixed this problem. And this is where the Hadoop comes in the picture. So when you have a data, now basically this big data can be defined with the views, 3 views. Nowadays 5 views also they have started. So first view is volume, second V is velocity, and third V is variety. So volume means when I have a huge amount of data is there. Whenever you have a huge amount of data which cannot be processed by your normal system, we called it as a big data. Velocity means how fastly you are getting that data. See, I have a system and continuously data is coming. I am not getting a time to process itself. So how frequently that data is getting generated? Huge amount of data will be generated through the system. If you take the example of airplane, or if you take the example of IRCTC also, if you take the example of any streaming application, like let's take example of cricket, continuously the player movements is happening, right? So that is continuously generating a data, and that data I want to process it. So that is called velocity. How frequently your data is getting generated. Variety, what are the different type of data that is getting generated? Different type of data. See, when you talk about the data, you are not getting a data like single type of data, you are getting structural kind of data also. Now what is meant by structural kind of data? A data which can be fit in the form of rows and column, that is called structural kind of data. Now let's take an example. I have one table is there. That table is a employee table and it has some records are there. So when you are saying that it is an employee table will be stored in the form of rows and column. Now I want to process this data, I want to perform some operation on this data. So it is a structural kind of data. So structural kind of data should be processed. Unstructural kind of data can be processed. just like a log file. If I tell you, boss, I want to process this file, I want to process this file, or I want to process any log file, that is completely unstructured, right? That is completely unstructured means that data is not fitted in the form of rows and column. But I want the mechanism which will process your unstructured kind of data also. So structural kind of data, unstructured kind of data, and there is one more type of data is there. We called it as a semi-structural data. Semi-structural means the data which is coming in the form of JSON, XML. All these data are your unstructured data, semi-structural data. Semi means it is not completely structural also, it is not completely unstructured also. That data we called it as a semi-structural data. So Hadoop have the ability to process this all type of data. Like it can process structural also, unstructured also, semi-structural also. Not only Hadoop, we are going to discuss about one more technology in future. We called it as a Spark also. So all this kind of data can be processed by this technology, and this is the reason this technology is really booming in the market. And you know how this data is coming, velocity. When we talk about the velocity also, na, there are two type of data you will find. One is batch processing. Another thing we called it as a real-time processing. Or streaming also we are saying. Some people are calling it as streaming also. So what is meant by batch? Okay, what is meant by batch? So batch is basically, let's say you got some data today for processing purpose. When you got the data on 17th of Feb in the form of file. You got a data. You are going to process it by using some Hadoop technology. You are going to process it by using this Hadoop technology, and finally you will get the output. So this data is called batch processing kind of data. Why? Because you are getting a data one time, 17th Feb you got a data. By using Hadoop technology, you are going to process it, and finally you are processing. After doing the processing, you are saving that data to some location. So it is a 17th Feb of file. You are going to process it on 18th, maybe 18th you are processing it, and finally you are getting data. So such a type of data we called it as a batch processing kind of data. But certain situations will be there where you need to process real time. Real time means, let's say you have a system. Just take an example of your log. You want to understand, I'll tell you one small example. Let's say I have my website is there called learnomate.org, and what I want to do, as soon as the users is connecting to this learnomate.org to my website, I want to see that in the form of dashboard. I want to see that in dashboard real time. Means as soon as the user is getting connected, I can see that okay, 100 connection, 99 connection, 50 connections, 1000 connection. That dashboard should be coming in real time. See, if user are coming now, I don't want to see that tomorrow dashboard. I want to see a real-time dashboard. You can see it in the form of bar chart and all, right? That is called real-time processing. So we have a mechanism in Hadoop and Spark which will process your batch kind of processing and real-time processing also. When you have a data which is coming in the form of batch, or you have a data which is coming in the form of real time, it can be processed. So basically, overall what we understand that a data which is of any type, structural, unstructured, semi-structural, can be processed by using Hadoop Spark technology. A data which is coming in the form of batch, in the form of real time, it can be processed with the help of these two technologies. A data which is following three V's like volume, velocity, variety. That is the problem called big data. If the data is coming with the very big volume, which cannot be processed by the normal system, if the data is coming very fastly, how frequently your data is getting generated, if the data is coming with the different kind of data, when these situations comes, we call it as a big data. So big data is a problem, and what is the solution? Hadoop and Spark are the solutions of your big data problems. In big data, we have a multiple systems will be there, which will be running parallelly to fix this problem, and that is called cluster, and we call it as a Hadoop cluster. So in real time production environment, when you work as a Hadoop developer, this cluster will be created by Hadoop admin team. They will create that if you are using the Cloudera or Hortonworks, or if you are using any cloud vendor, so they will be created for you. You are mainly responsible for development purpose. So I'll tell you what are the responsibilities in the development. But till now, whatever we have discussed, are you able to understand? Can you please use the chat option also? Okay, so I see yes, 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 yes. Okay. All right. Now, so what we are going to do, okay, we need to understand about this technology. I'll tell you one thing that Hadoop we are going to learn. Okay? Hadoop is a very important technology. So when you talk about the Hadoop, there are multiple components are there in the Hadoop. Okay. If you try to understand about the Hadoop, there are multiple components are there in the Hadoop. Let me go there. Let me show you one diagram. Go into the computer training. Then we have Hadoop training docs and Hadoop ecosystem. Okay. So if you take the example of this, copy. Okay. Now, so what you can see. So this is a Hadoop ecosystem. Okay. Hadoop ecosystem is what are all components are there which are the part of your Hadoop. So among that, a very important component that we need to understand is your HDFS, which is one important component. Then we need to understand about the Hive also, because that is also play a very important role. We need to understand about the yarn, that is also a resource manager. So first of all, before we go to the Hadoop ecosystem, what I told you, like let's say you have a cluster, you have a node, we called it as a node 1, which is my machine 1. I have one more machine is there, we called it as a node 2. We have one more machine is there which is called node 3. So basically I have 3 machines are there which are internally get connected through the network. Okay, and since this machine are the part of single network, we called it as a Hadoop cluster. What we call Hadoop cluster. So when I want to store a huge amount of data, when I want to store huge amount of data, that data needs to be stored somewhere, right? That data needs to be stored somewhere. So what will happen in Hadoop? That data will be stored among different nodes. So some data will be stored here, some data will be stored here, some data will be stored here. So when I say that we have a node 1, node 2, node 3, we have a 3 machines are there. You can consider it as a 3 node cluster. And every machine is a separate machine from each other. Separate machine means this machine will have their dedicated CPU, memory. When I say a memory, it is a RAM, and it has his own storage. Same way, it is having this own CPU, memory, and storage. CPU, memory, and storage. So these are the 3 different machines are there. But since these machines are connected to each other and they are bond with each other, we called it as a Hadoop cluster. Now, when you want to understand this technology, you need to understand this terminology called HDFS. So what is HDFS? Today I will just give you some heads up. HDFS. So this is called Hadoop file system. This is called Hadoop file system, which is mainly useful to store huge amount of data. Now when you have these 3 nodes are there, on the top of it you are going to install Hadoop software. What you are going to do? You are going to install Hadoop software. So as soon as you are installing a Hadoop software, you will get one storage, and that storage we called it as a HDFS. 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 So HDFS is a file system which is mainly useful to store your data related to the Hadoop. Now how this HDFS is different from your OS level file system? Like we have this C drive, E drive, F drive, these drives are there, right? So how it is different? So the very important difference between the OS level file system and Hadoop file system is the block size. The block size of your OS level file system, it can be in 4 KB, but when you talk about the HDFS file system, it will hold 120 MB of data within a single block. It can extend to 256 MB also. So where is KB and where is 120 MB? You imagine. It means this file system is mainly useful to process huge amount of, or to store huge amount of data only when you talk about the Hadoop file system. So we'll be discussing about what is Hadoop file system, how to store a data into this Hadoop file system, and how to process a data into this Hadoop file system. There is one more component we need to understand, that is called Hive. So when you have a data, when let's say, I'll tell you one example. Let's say you have one CSV file is there, okay, and in that CSV file you have a data like comma separated. 1, the name is Chetan, salary is 1000. 2, Sagar 2000. 3, Nikhil 3000. When I see this data which is in the form of CSV, I can see that okay, this data I can put it into the table. Can we have one thing? I'll create one table. In that I will create 3 column: ID, name, and salary, and this CSV file I will directly load into this table, and this table we called it as a Hive table. What is Hive? Hive is a kind of database, but it's not a database. Kind of. Why I'm saying kind of? Because it has a database, it has a table, but it does not follow the property like ACID property, just like a table. So I can put the data like this: 1, 2, 3. Here I can mention Chetan, Sagar, Nikhil. Here I can mention 1000, 2000, and 3000. So basically what happened, we have a CSV file which is given by the client to me. He is saying that I want to have a people name which is having a salary greater than 2000. So what I will do, now it is very difficult to process it in the CSV directly, right? So I'll upload it to the Hive table, and there simply select level command I'll use. On this high table, you can run your simply SQL statement. So you have insert, update and delete all this. Okay. Again, I'm saying there are some restrictions are there. So I'll discuss about that. But you can run your SQL queries over here on this table. You can create your database, run your SQL queries. You can create your tables. Everything is possible on this Hive. Because why they have come up with this technology, they know that most of the people are comfortable with this SQL. So instead of writing a huge amount of code, see, if the high table is not there, I'll tell you, you need to write down huge Java code. You need to write down, you need to read it into the Java objects, then you need to process it. It is going to take a long time, and everyone is not comfortable with programming. So they thought like, okay, can we have a mechanism which will internally create a Java program only, but when you are using it as a developer, you should write down like select star from table name. So when you fire select star from table name, internally it is creating a Java program only, and then you are getting a data, then you are getting a result here. That result you can store it where? To the HDFS, to the cloud system like AWS. You can store it anywhere. You can store it anywhere. That's not a problem. So when I say that, boss, why Hadoop and Spark is very important, why Hadoop and Spark is very important, because it can process any type of data, and it can process a data from any location. Let's say you have a data available in your local location. Local means, let's say you have a data available in your C drive. It can take a data. Let's say you have a data available in your HDFS file system. Already your data is available in HDFS. It can pick up a data from there also. Let's say this is my Hadoop or Spark. Okay. It can take a data from local. It can take a data from HDFS. It can take a data from your RDBMS system also. Let's say your data is available in the Oracle or MySQL. It can take a data. It can take a data from your AWS cloud system, cloud. Let's say you're talking about Oracle cloud, AWS, you're talking about the Azure, anywhere. Whatever storage you have related to the cloud, it will process a data from here. So there is no restriction, boss. You cannot take the data from here. And again, when you are done with the processing, you can this is like a read operation, and you can write it to any location. Like you can write it to local HDFS, you can write it to the RDBMS database directly, you can write it to the cloud related storage also. No problem. You can do that very easily. That is what going to happen. That is what going to happen. It's possible. Able to understand till now? Can you please use the chat option? I see yes. Okay, yes. All right. So that's the importance of high table. Now we have one more component of your Hadoop. We called it as scoop. So scoop is mainly useful to take a data from your RDBMS. Like, see what they have done. Hadoop has created multiple component. Like, okay, when you want to take a data from RDBMS, use scoop. When you want to take the data like a structural kind of data, use Hive. When you want to store a data, use Hadoop HDFS. When you want to process streaming kind of data, there is a tool called Flume, Apache Flume. And one more thing which I want to tell you, that all this component whatever you are using related to the Hadoop, that is open source. Open source means it is free of cost. Why Hadoop and Spark are very booming in the market? Because they are provided by the Apache, and any product which is provided by the Apache is completely free of cost. You take the example of Oracle. Do you think that Oracle is free of cost? No. when you are using Oracle or you are using any tools, okay, that there is a license you need to purchase. You need to purchase a license, but when you are using Apache and all, you don't need to purchase any license. That is free of cost. But there are premium versions are also available of this, like Databricks is there. It is there. I'll discuss about that. So we have a RDBMS database. Let's say you have huge amount of data is available in the RDBMS. You want to store that data into the Hadoop. So by using Scoop technology, you can take a data from your RDBMS, process it, and finally store again that data into the Hive, HDFS, wherever you want to store. You can do that. So Scoop is a technology which will take a data from your RDBMS, process it and save it. It can also take a Scoop provide two functionality. One is Scoop import and Scoop export. Import means it will import a data from RDBMS. Export means it will take a data from HDFS and load it to the RDBMS database. Import is there, export is there, vice versa. Both the things is possible with the help of Scoop. So we need to understand this technology also. But nowadays you might have heard about one thing, that Hadoop is not something used by the most of the client. Hadoop is not something which is used by most of the client. Nowadays people are talking about the Spark technology. So there is always a competition in between Hadoop and Spark. But does Hadoop replace the Spark? So that's not a correct also. When you talk about the Hadoop, there are two things provided by the Hadoop. One is a storage which is provided by HDFS. So when you see, don't get confused with the Hadoop and HDFS. Hadoop is just a big system. So you consider that Hadoop is a big system, and under that Hadoop you have these components are there, like I discussed about Scoop, HDFS. Okay, so for HDFS they are used for storage purpose, and it is also provide you for processing purpose. For processing purpose it provide you MapReduce. To process this data you need to use MapReduce, but this MapReduce is basically you need to write down the Java. Now what is Spark? Spark is only a processing engine. Spark is only a processing engine. It means what is processing here in Hadoop? MapReduce. So if you say that, does Hadoop replace that, does Spark replace the Hadoop? Then no. Does MapReduce replace the Spark? Then you can say yes. Because Spark does not have his own storage. Spark does not have his own storage. For storage purpose, Spark is depending on HDFS or cloud specific storage, or local or anywhere. But Spark is only a processing engine. So why Spark is very important? Because when you talk about the MapReduce, this is very slow, and Spark is 100 times faster than MapReduce. So if you take the example of same, let's say you have a huge amount of data is available in the form of CSV. When you use MapReduce to read this data and then finally store a output, MapReduce is slow. But instead of MapReduce, if you use Spark, then it is very faster. If you use Spark now, it is 100 times faster than MapReduce. 100 times. So Spark is, again, this is also a product of Apache only, but widely used in the market. If you want to understand about the Spark, this Spark can be written with 3 languages like Java. You can use Scala also, and widely used nowadays Python. Python is also something which is Java nowadays very rarely used, mostly in banking system. Scala is also mostly used, and Python is really booming in the market. So this Spark can be written with Java language, Scala language, or Python language. But if you try to understand the overall Spark technology, you need to use Spark API only. Means, let's say any function which is coming from Spark, let's say, just take an example, there is a function called with column. So with column is available here also, here also, here also. This Java, Scala, or Python are just a wrapper, but the main use to understand is Spark. So either you write it with Java or Scala or Python, anything is fine. Java, personally, people, why they are not using? Because Java, like, if those people who are coming from the Java background, they know that when you write down a small program also, let's say you write down one system.out.print, just you print something, again you need to compile the code, again you need to create that jar file, move it to the cluster. Then your overall development will be slow. Execution is fast, but overall development process is becoming very slow. That is the reason people are not going through Java. So Python is scripting based. Easily you can change the code, very simple to understand, development is faster, lot of support is available on the websites. So that's the reason this Python with Spark, we called it as a PySpark technology, can be used in the market. So overall, if you try to understand this profile, some people are calling it as a PySpark, okay, some people are calling it as Spark developer also, okay, some people are calling it as a data engineer profile also, data engineer, okay. Some, now you can use this Spark with the cloud also, like assume that you are using AWS or Azure or any other cloud, okay. AWS and Azure is quietly famous in the market, or you can use GCP also. But overall your Spark is not going to change, it will be same only, either you use with the PySpark or you use with anywhere, okay, it is same only. So what I am going to cover with this training is, we are going to discuss about your Hadoop and all Hadoop related components which are important and that is important in terms of interview and all. So like we'll discuss about the HDFS, Hayu, Scoop we'll try to see. Then we'll try to understand about the Python. Okay, so basic Pythons I'll discuss about that. The most important thing is Spark, we need to understand. Then there is a scheduler is there, we called it as a airflow, that we are going to cover, and some of the basic concept of your AWS also we are going to cover. So these are all things that we are going to cover throughout our training. We'll be discussing about the projects also, that you can explain when you are going through an interview and all, okay. All the interview questions we are going to discuss, okay. So this is all things, you'll get the resume from our side, okay. If you have any questions, queries, anything, please let me know so we can discuss further. You can unmute yourself and ask the questions.
Hi, Ankush, Satya here.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, Ankush, like nowadays, like PySpark is mostly like a widely be using, right? Will you be covering that on as well?
PySpark you are saying, na?
Yeah.
Yeah, overall this technology, see, I'm saying when I say Python and Spark, na, so it is PySpark
Yeah.
only.
Okay. When PySpark, like in particular, like we will be covering PySpark alone, or like any real-time streaming data also, like we can be covering in this particular.
Streaming, we will think about it. This time I'm planning to add one streaming. See, mostly like wherever I work, I don't see streaming. Most of the time,
Yeah.
like if you ask me, like the people are using batch processing only. So we have a streaming concept, but widely, if you ask me in terms of experience, I'll tell you like streaming. I have
Won't
not,
be.
even my colleagues, I have never seen anyone who is working on streaming.
Okay. In AWS, what concept like you are going? I mean, anything relating about like the data you'll be touching, or like normal
No, in
Um,
AWS, what I will do, I'll just take an example that you have EC2 instance. I'll discuss about that. Okay. And you stored your data on this AWS system. So how to read the data from your AWS system, that part we'll discuss. And if possible,
okay,
we'll try to touch to glue also.
okay, okay, okay. Got it. Ankush, thank you.
So overall the training fees is 20K. Okay. The duration will go around 45 days. We'll talk about Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Okay, these 3 days. The timing will be 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. IST timing, Indian timing. Okay. You'll get a recording also. Okay, and the recording will be available for 3 months of access. Okay, you can directly stream it, you cannot download it. Okay, that's a okay. Apart from this, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, those people who are interested, they can WhatsApp us on the number 77570 62955 on this number, or you can also WhatsApp us on our another number 78229 17585. Okay. Or you can also drop an email to us, info@learnomate.org. Okay, you can email us. Okay. All right, so you can take a screenshot if you are interested. We are starting batch from tomorrow only. Okay, so we are not waiting for anything, we are starting from tomorrow only. We already got all the admissions actually, and we are starting from tomorrow. Okay, any question guys, last question or anything you want to ask? No. Okay, thank you, bye bye, let's connect tomorrow.